You didn't know because you weren't on there, but they did. They would end up on Reddit. The good ones would end up on Reddit.
Yeah.
It was just a nice way to quickly look at what was the top news, and then it just kind of devolved really quickly.
Yeah. Hey, freaks. It's Matt and Marty here. We're talking about the old days of information sources in Bitcoin.
Yeah, Marty never used r/Bitcoin. That surprises me.
Yeah.
I was prolific on r/Bitcoin.
I definitely went on. I never had a Reddit account until like recently when I was trying to pump the podcast when we first put it out. I haven't really used it much since. But yeah, I never really used Reddit much back in the day. I was a big Bitcoin talk guy. That's what we were saying.
I've had like 15 Reddit accounts.
Yeah.
Because I would just, that's when I used to have good OPSEC.
Well, everything on Reddit I feel like would leak on the Twitter, and that was like one of my main sources too. That and like Bitcoin talk.
Well, it's funny because it used to be that you would go on Twitter and you would see people would be linking to things from Reddit on Twitter. Now, whenever I do end up on r/Bitcoin, which I rarely go to now, a lot of the top posts are just tweets, right? They're linking out the opposite way.
Fascinating how the information spreading evolves over time. Now we have podcasts where people get their information from now.
I mean, we had podcasts back then too. They were just fucking horrible.
Well, not all of them. Actually, a great podcast that's still around today. I want to give a shout out to Ansel Linder. Bitcoin Markets was always a great podcast back in the day.
Classic.
Every Thursday getting the news.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
He's been hustling for years.
BTC Markets. Go check it out. Ansel's got like a great podcast voice too. A little southern draw.
Absolutely.
Current price is $7,153.53. Would give you, or current block is 608,835. Would give you the hash rate, but we took it off the ticker because the hash rate that we were pulling for the site, it was terribly off. It was showing like 1 exahash at some point yesterday. I was like, this is fucking wrong, DJ. So actually, DJ is working. Matt, you don't know this yet. He's working to. I think he's going to issue a pull request to Blockstream.info to put in a hash rate feed there, and then we'll pull from that.
At blockchain.info.
Blockstream.info.
Okay, good. Yeah, we shouldn't be using blockchain.info.
Yeah. I think that's what we were using, and they were giving us bad data.
Yeah, no one should be using blockchain.info. So I'm glad we're changing that.
It was in our defense. It was to produce an MVP, all right, a prototype.
Absolutely. Constantly iterating. The total, according to Bitcoinity, is 90.4 exahash.
Okay. What can Bitcoinity?
You don't know Bitcoinity?
No, I do.
Data.bitcoinity.org.
Yeah.
Dude's a fucking. This guy too is an school hustler. He's been around since forever.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That's actually one of the few tabs I have on my few bookmarks I have on my browser right here.
I remember being like a young kid, and diving headfirst into Bitcoin, and then I like realized at some point he was a NIM, but at some point he came out with his identity, the guy who runs Bitcoinity, and he was like a 15-year-old kid or something. I'm like, this site that I like rely on a daily basis to check prices and data and shit is just being run by a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, Bitcoin, man. It's a whole fucking different game.
Right? And then you have like Rashid, who's...
You're just hacking hardware wallets.
Yeah. It's
He's older now, though, right?
I don't know. Crypto Ethan just graduated college.
Yeah, that shit always blows my mind. We got the young people, man.
So many memes.
Young people are the future.
So many memes.
Literally.
Before we had a lot of topics to talk about this week. I have some good spitballing right there. Have some good reminiscing. We got a lot of topics. Before we dive into them, this episode of Rabbit Hole Recap is brought to you by our good friends at GiveWell. Guys, they're blowing up right now. I just got an email from them that we have to change the copy because so many people are using them right now. I'll tell you what the change is at the end. In practice, it's hard to know what charities will do with your donation. GiveWell spends 20,000 hours each year researching which charities can do the most with your money. They recommend a short list of the best charities they found and share them with donors like you. GiveWell's recommendations are free for anyone to use, and they don't take a cut of your donation. They do not take any cuts of your donations. So if you want to help children somewhere and you find two trustworthy organizations that are run by different programs, one could save a child's life for $300,000, another could save one for $3,000. You don't know which one to pick, you may pick the more expensive one because you think it's more luxury. GiveWell is here to help you make smarter decisions. Learn how to make your good donation. Learn how much good your donation can do by visiting givewell.org/TFTC. They accept traditional payment methods and Bitcoin, as well as some other cryptocurrencies. So for the first-time donors, this is where the change is. Your donation will be matched up to $1,000 to your first donation as long as it lasts. They're blowing through that donation spend right now, so they will match your donation as long as their match is there. So go to givewell.org/TFTC.
What did the old copy say? Match up to $1,000?
Yeah.
But didn't have the disclaimer that they might run out of money to match with?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's blowing up.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. That's what you like to see. This episode of Tales from the Crypt is also brought to you by the Cash App. Our good friends at the Cash App are letting you stack sats. You can buy and sell Bitcoin from the Cash App pretty easily. Now you can stack slivers of stonks as well if you want to. Not that you have to. It's just there. If you ever want to, it is there. If you're somebody who's wanted to invest in stocks, but you've been unable to do so because the stocks that you want to invest in are too expensive, Cash App is letting you, again, stack slivers of shares. So you can buy as little as $1 of your favorite stock. And you can do this right away because your Cash App is connected to your bank account. There's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods for inbound transfers. So you can start investing today. Brokerage services are provided by Cash App Investing, a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. As always, use the code STACKINGSATS, and you're going to get $10. And Cash App is going to send $10 to our good friend Owls. Owls Lacrosse. Again, stacking sats, one word, going to Owls Lacrosse. Download the Cash App from the App Store or the Google Play Store today. This episode of Tales from the Crypt is also brought to you by our good friends at Unchained Capital. Unchained Capital is doing many things in the Bitcoin space. They're helping in the open source front. They're providing Bitcoiners with the ability to hold their Bitcoin in the form of Bitcoin collateralized loan. Friends don't let friends sell Bitcoin. If you are ever thinking about selling your Bitcoin and just need cash, Unchained is there to let you take out a cash loan using your Bitcoin as collateral. On top of that, they have their Vaults program, which is their multi-sig setup. You can engage in a quorum, multi-sig quorum with Unchained, and they can be a signing key in your 2 or 3 or an NVM setup. And if you ever need Unchained to sign for you, they are there for you. And on top of that, they're providing the tools that they use, and they're open sourcing them. So if you never want Unchained in the quorum, you can use the tools that they've built, particularly Caravan, to create your own multi-sig setup. So go check out Unchained at unchained-capital.com. That's unchained-capital.com. Whew. How we feeling, Matt?
We did it, freaks.
We did it. We made it through. We made it through.
I'm fucking cold, man. New York is cold. I'm not cool with it right now. I don't like the cold.
It's actually my final thought. I'd prefer 7-degree weather to like 36-degree weather. When it gets this cold, like your body just accepts that it's cold and adapts, I feel like.
If it's colder?
I think so. And then this is just from like living in Chicago.
I kind of shrugged at your final thought, to be honest. Yeah, that's exactly what I did when I read it. I was like, yeah, okay, Marty, I'll take 36 over 7 any day of the week.
Hardo. No, because 36, it can rain and not snow. Like, I'd rather it snow than rain when it gets to this temperature.
Oh, I agree. Oh, yeah, I guess I don't like 36.
Yeah.
And rain. That's horrible.
Terrible.
Snow is much preferred.
Were you safe during the snow squall yesterday?
We got, like, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, yesterday. It was crazy, though. Did you see it when it was snowing?
And I guess I was hibernating.
I was sitting here with Bitcoin Sound Guy recording an episode. We had the windows open. It looked like you couldn't see shit. It was like crazy fast wind. And it was like real quick. And we got the app alert. Snow squall on the way. You don't see too many snow squalls.
Oh, the alert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My lady got that alert, but I didn't. You can disable that in settings. You should disable those alerts. They're so obnoxious.
Yeah, remember when Trump sent one?
Yeah, they're so obnoxious. Like, really, we got 1 inch of snow, and they're like buzzing phones left and right. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you can see the snow. Like, you know it's snowing. You don't need an alert for that.
Well, again, I think the squall was the important part. It's a snow squall, not just your typical snowstorm. It's got the squall aspect to it.
Do we know what the difference is? What makes it a squall?
I think a squall is just like very quick winds. not tornado, but like chaotic winds, if you will. I don't know. That's just what I assume squall. That's the connotation that the word squall imbues in my head.
Gotta look it up.
Gotta look up squall.
Don't
Freaks.
trust verified freaks.
Yeah, look up squall. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about Bitcoin. Big week. A lot to talk about. A lot of topics. This might be a longer episode. We're already 10 minutes in here. Let's start with, we'll follow up with what we ended on last week, which was the conversation about repo markets and what was going on there. And it's just a short comment here. I recorded an episode with Parker Lewis over the weekend and posted that on Sunday. If you're interested, I think Parker does an incredibly good job at laying out the landscape of how this liquidity crunch was created, what's happening, and what needs to be done going forward, and what is currently happening in the repo markets. So go check that out.
Great episode.
Yeah, fascinating. Quick 45-minute rip, or 50-minute rip. But yeah, it's the people in charge of our monetary system seem to have no idea of the repercussions of their policies. That's what it seems.
As I've said in the past, I always just end up market buying Bitcoin when I listen to Parker speak. So
yeah,
this time is no different.
It is true. He is a mensch when it comes to the Fed. He has done his homework and knows the fundamentals and does a very good job at laying them out. So definitely go check out that episode, 122. Matt, I wanted to talk about this last week, but you censored me. It was too early to talk about it.
We had a lot of things going on there.
I know. The AML D5 regulation, particularly, God damn it, it's 2 already. Bottle pay shutting down rather than implementing KYC. You are obviously disclaimer and advisor. What the hell happened?
It was just a really sad week. They've been grappling with the decision for a couple weeks. AMLD5 is this new regulation that comes into effect January 10th across the EU. And technically applies to all EU residents, like if you're a business serving EU customers, but especially if you're a company based in the EU.
Yeah, and this is a law that passed like this time last year, I believe.
Right, it was like a 1 year delay. And Bottle Pay is based in the UK, which is still in the EU for now. But so each member state, the law is like really vague, and each member state of the EU gets to enact it independently. They have to follow the guidelines, but they can be more strict if they want to be more strict, right? And the Netherlands released theirs first, and then the UK released theirs. And frankly, it's just it's extremely vague legislation, which is, it is what it is. We've come to expect that out of regulators. But they were afraid that, Bottle Pay never had KYC, and they were afraid that they were going to get into a situation where they had to shotgun KYC on people. What we've seen Binance and a bunch of other companies do in the past, which is basically you hold the funds hostage and you make them do the KYC to get their funds out. And also at the same time, like, any information that you'd used with Bottle Pay in the past would then get connected to that new KYC information, right? Because users weren't aware that there was going to be KYC in the future. So they thought the most responsible approach, and I'm really proud of them for this, they thought the most responsible approach was to shut down, make sure all user funds are out before the January 10th gets enacted, and wait and see how this exactly plays out. And any funds, I also like this touch. I mean, it just goes to show what type of people there are. Any funds that are left over at the January 10th date get donated to the Human Rights Foundation, which is a nice touch.
Very admirable. No, I told you this off air. I think it will work out in the long run for Bottle Pay. It's a good decision and tough one to eat, obviously. It fucking sucks. Like, do you think this law is intentionally vague? Yeah.
It's like the bid license was really vague too. With the bid license, we at least got an absolute carve out for non-custodial wallets. But I remember when it was actually happening, the New York bid license, when it was actually happening, we weren't really positive. if that carve out was going to exist, you know, like wallets like
Electrum.
or Blockstream Green or something. But so no one really knows how they're going to enforce this AMLD5. And one of the issues here is that as it's written, it could potentially apply to non-custodial wallets. So the question is, how far do they want to take that? Are they only going to go after non-custodial wallets that have like a company and a business behind it? Or are they actually going to go after like open source devs? That seems like really hard to enforce, especially if they're under NIMS and stuff like that. And specifically non-custodial Lightning, where you're providing some liquidity. How does that fall? You know, so we love Breeze here. We're going to talk in a little bit about Phoenix, but from Async, and they're both non-custodial wallets, but they provide you inbound liquidity on the Lightning Network. And there's some questions there whether or not that is going to fall under AMLD5. If not all non-custodial wallets, maybe just those types. And the whole way BottlePay works is you know, you need to have, everyone needs to have liquidity. If you don't have liquidity, you can't send the payments back and forth. So like a lot of the takes people have had in terms of it's because it was a custodial wallet. Like there was a plan in place there to move it to a non-custodial model, and no one's sure if that would have been, if they would have had to, they might have had to implement KYC anyway, and hold funds hostage to do it, right? So they said, you know, we're in a good place right now. You know, the users have been very happy. Let's just shut it down, wait and see, and take a safer approach here.
What is the justification of AMLD5?
Well, the justification is always the same. It's the, you know, the Trace
Terrorists.
Mayer justification. It's terrorists and money launderers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's that famous meme, like, how do we package this, right?
Yeah. Terrorism or save the children.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I think we've expected this for years. They're not going to just go
Lightly into the night.
Yeah, they're going to try and clamp down as much as possible. They'll stifle innovation in a lot of their countries. You know, innovation will move abroad. It'll move to different jurisdictions. There'll be the whole jurisdiction arbitrage type of thing. I mean, it's interesting that no one really has been talking about AMLD5, and I think it's because everyone's like been in their like war rooms trying to figure out how their company's gonna fucking handle it, and don't want to be on the record saying anything. But like, for instance, like Binance is a big one. They just did jurisdictional arbitrage moving to Malta, but Malta's in the EU, right? So are they gonna move? Are they gonna put KYC on everyone? How are they gonna handle it? So you'll see a lot of people moving. BitMEX is still in the Seychelles, right? So
Seychelles isn't European, is it?
no,
All right.
it's just a random island. Isn't it in the Pacific somewhere?
I think it might be off the coast of Africa or something like that. No? I could be wrong. I have no idea. My geography is not sharp right now. Matt's going to look it up. No, but it is... it's disconcerting, right? That the government in Europe wants to clamp down on this, and it's the Dutch companies started shutting down first because that was the first country to make a move, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they all enforce it. And I mean, this is one of the annoying parts about the EU too, right? It's like, so that each member country is going to be like passing their own procedure for handling AMLD5.
Yes.
So it's off the coast of the other side of Africa in the Indian Ocean.
So I was right. Yeah, it's off the coast of Africa.
I was like, I guess the Indian Ocean is technically its own ocean. But
No,
I
it
always,
is, yeah.
I always think of that as like, I guess my U.S.-centric mindset. We have one side is the Pacific Ocean, the other side is the Atlantic, and that's just the two oceans we have.
Yeah, that is off the coast of Africa. But, yeah. Shout out to the BottlePay team. I think you guys made the right move. Very admirable. I know they're back in the war room now, trying to figure out how they can come back from this.
I mean, it's a perfect example too. It's like all these people we hear all the fucking time. Like we hear from CZ, fucking at Binance, where he's like, we have no choice. We're like, we have to shotgun KYC the users, right? Like there is an option, right? You always have options, and this just goes to show that there's
There's some ethical actors out there.
Exactly.
Speaking of Binance, and speaking of springing KYC on people, apparently their Singapore branch does not like people who CoinJoin after they withdraw. There was a thread on Twitter this morning from Biddlecat that was making the rounds. Apparently he got KYC sprung on him. By
No. I think he was already KYC'd.
Oh, yes. He was already
Binance-
KYC'd. They stopped. They paused his withdrawals because he had withdrawn the CoinJoin previously, and they asked him a bunch of intrusive questions about where his money came from.
They asked him
and why he's CoinJoining.
Yeah. Your current occupation, your annual income range, and what is the purpose of withdrawing the funds to Wasabi Wallet?
Hey, Binance, fuck you. It doesn't matter what the purpose is.
Yeah, so Binance Singapore is talking about jurisdictional arbitrage, regulatory arbitrage. Binance has they have all these separate exchanges all throughout the world that are like fiat to like a couple pair of gateways, right? Like they recently launched Binance US, they have Binance Singapore, they're all over the place. And they have reduced trading pairs. So like this one, I think you can buy like 6. It's basically just fiat to
a couple coins.
Yeah, like a couple coins. And it is KYC. And actually, one thing that was interesting that I never knew, I'm definitely going to mispronounce his name, but Zhu was on a podcast.
Suzu?
Zuzu, yeah. Suzu.
Yes.
Suzu was on a podcast recently, and he was talking about Binance Singapore. In Singapore, it's really easy to open an exchange, but not for Singaporeans. So there's like a bunch of exchanges, including Binance Singapore, that's there, but like you can't get an account as a Singaporean, which is weird.
What?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's just a random
fact.
Yeah, but let's talk about Wasabi getting. So this is our first really known blacklist of specifically of CoinJoin usage, right?
Yes, that I can think of off the top of my head.
It's funny because we've been waiting for it to come on the deposit side, and this was on the withdrawal side. So presumably, well, he's said this as much on Twitter that previous transactions he had put through Wasabi Wallet, so then they didn't let him do this one, right? Because you can see after the fact if you CoinJoin, it's clear on chain. You have like a bunch of transactions of similar inputs, similar outputs coming out, and then
so these exchanges can see where you're sending it. It's going to be a B1 address, and it's going to be with a bunch of other inputs of similar value.
There's a CoinJoin heuristic there that's like pretty obvious.
Yes.
With Wasabi, it's even more obvious because they use this fixed fee address where every Wasabi transaction gets paid to the same exact reused address. So all they have to do is like in their chain analysis software, just like flag that address, and they automatically get all the Wasabi CoinJoins. The Wasabi guys they claim that the reason they do that is for transparency, so you can see their fee structure, you can see all their fees, how much they get paid, you can easily track how many CoinJoins they've done without like advanced chain analysis, and that you can find even just like a semi-sophisticated actor can easily have a formula to identify the CoinJoins. You might as well let every schmuck be able to do it. But it's always rubbed me the wrong way, the fixed fee address. It just seems like an odd place to be for something that's about like CoinJoin and obfuscation and shit.
Yeah, would there be a way with like?
Well, Samurai doesn't use a fixed fee address.
Well, I know that, but like, if you want, going to Wasabi's reasoning for the fixed address being transparency, would there be a way like Schnorr and Taproot to like anonymously? Disclose that?
No, because if we knew, like if they gave us like an XPub or something else, like then the chain analysis companies are the XPub.
Yeah, that's true.
So like you can't like publicly disclose it without
revealing.
I mean, you can see like how much each transaction paid in fee, right, on chain.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
So you could probably actually reverse engineer. But if they made it easy for you, they'd be also be making it easy for the chain analysis companies. I think, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I think this will probably become more common. I know for a fact Cash App doesn't do it because I do it all the time to both Samurai and Wasabi. So that's good to see. I don't think they should be doing it. They've already KYC'd you. But, you know, some exchanges will be doing it and some won't. And you just...
Well, and let's...
boycott the ones that do.
Well, yeah, and let's take a time here to reassert that it is okay to CoinJoin. Privacy, financial privacy is okay. It should be a human right.
Like, not according to Trace.
What?
Trace Meyer's been making the rounds.
All right, we'll get into that, but back to the reassertion. Privacy is okay. You shouldn't feel dirty in a CoinJoin. And apparently Trace Mayer does feel dirty.
But so that is one of the issues with the fixed fee address, is that it does create like this connection between the fee address and like every other transaction that's gone through the CoinJoins and your transaction. So it does like it just seems unnecessary. I think it's just so you just get rid of it. And then the other thing, which is like kind of separate, but like I really love how Samurai's model is every output that goes in is exactly the same amount. So because they collect the fee right in the beginning. So they collect the fee in the beginning, you have a perfectly similar output, and then that's what keeps getting remixed. And because of that heuristic that they do there, and the fact that they force remixing within the rounds, and they incentivize the remixing, because we talked about it on the pod last week that the remixing is super important. I think that those two combinations make it, you know, very powerful. I think that should be like, you know, where Wasabi goes as well. Because people don't realize, like with Wasabi, the amount of each CoinJoin, it goes down. The min goes down over time so you can remix, right? Because everyone's paying the fee every round.
Right.
So like when you're at the end of the day, you have
got a bunch of different outputs
with all different amounts,
yeah.
ever so slightly different, right? But they're all different amounts. It's not, and they're all paying this fixed fee address.
Yeah.
So I really think that in that way, the Samurai model is strictly superior. But just because Samurai doesn't have this fixed fee address doesn't mean they can't. Like, I think we've been pretty clear on the pod, and it's always worth reiterating, is that when you CoinJoin, people you pay in the future and people who have paid you in the past know you've CoinJoined. If you do it properly and you don't fuck anything up, it'll be a lot harder for them to actually see what your current transactions are, follow you through the chain. But they'll see that you went and you started CoinJoining. They'll know you started CoinJoining. And on the other side, they'll know you CoinJoined in the past. There's no... at least in the near term, there's no getting around that.
And that's why you're very keen on getting more people to CoinJoin, because the more people that CoinJoin and make it more socially acceptable and more importantly, increase everybody's anonymity set. Again, socially, it should just be accepted and something that is okay. Privacy is okay.
The more people that do it, the more you're hiding amongst, and also the more normalized it becomes, right?
Yes.
It becomes less of a heuristic. One thing that Chris Belcher mentioned, which is interesting, is that PayJoin doesn't use equal outputs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure PayJoin's the one where the person receiving the payment is contributing something to the payment, right?
Is that PayJoin or Snicker?
Snicker is the 2 of 2 equal output CoinJoins, I believe.
Okay.
And then PayJoin, you're not paying the person in Snicker.
Is PayJoin the one where you send a transaction? Yeah, you broadcast a transaction.
And then someone meets you. You broadcast it that fits someone else's transaction, and you hope they accept it and meet you. Right?
Yes, yeah.
I'm pretty sure CoinJoin is like I'm paying you and you contribute some Bitcoin in. It's an interactive process. You contribute some Bitcoin in, so that there's at the end of the day there's 2 to 4 outputs or whatever. No one knows which ones they're like, who's paying who, where it's going, how much is being paid, and it's a harder heuristic to break because it's not as obvious as 50 relatively equal outputs all in the same thing, or 5 outputs that are all the same size.
I feel like it would destroy that heuristic.
Yeah,
if it's truly like any amount.
Yeah, so I mean, we have things here. I mean, Lightning. I'm still super bullish on Lightning, in terms of like making privacy easier and more accessible. And I think this is this is going to be one of the battles. And I think that someone who tells you that you shouldn't be coin joining because you might be mixing with terrorists or North Koreans or something, just like they sound like a no-coiner to me, saying why I shouldn't use Bitcoin. And it, if people can't spend their money at will, if there's like a large amount of Bitcoin that's just unspendable because it's blacklists that are actually enforced successfully, like we're gonna have a lot bigger problems than whether or not you can sell your KYC bullshit coins. Because the price was like at the end of the day, number won't go up. The price will fucking crater if people can't spend their Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's we talked about this last week too, when people were fighting over whether Bitcoin's for hodling or censorship-resistant transactions. It's for both, and it doesn't work if one fails. You need both.
Yeah.
To hold each other up.
Yeah. Save good money, spend it at will.
Yeah. Yeah. So the battles are among us. The war has begun, freaks. The war is well underway. You may not recognize it, but it is here. We are in the middle of it. And Bitcoin needs you. I mean, if you think it's something that we should have in our world and in the future, you got to fight for it. And as you can see, the powers that be are definitely trying to curb its growth, at least.
I mean, I think it just comes down to Bitcoin security, right? Like at the end of the day, you don't want to be leaking all this information out there. You don't want people you pay to see all your past and future transactions and how much money you have, how much money you make. Depending on where your government is, you don't want them to know, because that's the first step to seizing it is knowing how much you have. Obviously the ideal here is to use non-KYC exchanges, but a lot of, especially at scale, it's very difficult to get, large amounts of non-KYC coins. So these privacy tools become extra important because this KYC is so intrusive.
Should they have used Monero in the Binance Singapore case?
Yeah, there's plenty of people that shum. Binance Singapore doesn't have Monero support, so you couldn't use Monero in this situation.
Yeah, come.
Couldn't use Monero.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they already blocked that route.
Yeah, they just never opened. They never had support for Monero.
Yeah.
That's why, like, Trace said that too. Trace was like, they might blacklist your Bitcoin, so like you should use like privacy-focused coins. Why wouldn't they just blacklist? Like, that's not. There's plenty of good arguments for why default privacy is better than non-default privacy, but this idea that the privacy coins won't get blacklisted, but the CoinJoin transactions will, just makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It's like the same exact logic. And if you're talking about swaps in and out, like, okay, then I'll blacklist Bitcoin that have gone through a swap with Monero,
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that'll be easy to enforce either, but I don't think CoinJoin bans will be easy to enforce. So to compare the two, it makes zero sense to me.
And I think what's more productive and more imperative, more importantly, is to get people, to ask people to say something, to stand up and fight for it. Like, say, hey, I want some financial privacy. Like, everybody's just passively, to me at least, sitting by as these laws get passed and they're complying. And how far is too far? How far will be too far? At what point will people scream out like, this is too fucking much?
The other thing is like, sorry, I'm still so triggered.
We got to win the war of ideas.
Trace also, the reason he's been going on the podcast is because he has this proof of keys thing on the 3rd of January, where if you have funds on exchanges, you should remove them from exchanges to see if they're solvent, if they have enough Bitcoin, right? Keep them honest. But he actually used the word slave to describe people who don't exercise this right. But at the same time said that he won't do CoinJoins because, he doesn't have permission to take his own financial privacy, right? So I think there's a real dichotomy there. I don't understand how you can see why you don't really have sovereignty, even if you take control of your keys, if they're fully KYC'd and like it's almost like a quasi permission system at that point where you're not taking your privacy into your own hands. You're too scared to, and I just it's not really a way to live, personally. Yeah. And then the other thing about proof of keys is, here at the pod, I think we practice proof of keys 24/7, 365. Not your keys, not your coins. The worst time to withdraw your coins is probably the day of. So like, if you have coins on exchanges, you should remove them before that, right? Like, why would you do it on?
Could be
the
an
3rd?
impulse spike.
Yeah, the fees will be higher. Exchanges their hot wallets will be drained. It'll be harder for withdrawals to process, even if they're completely solvent, right? Like if they're getting hit with 100x the withdrawal request. Like proof of reserves is way more. Shout out Nick Carter. Like proof of reserves is way more, I think, productive if we can get like real exchanges to honor some type of proof of reserve system.
Yeah, what is Bitfloor the only one that's been doing proof of reserves for like 5 years now?
Tiny ass little exchange, right?
In the UK, and they just went Bitcoin only.
No, isn't that CoinFloor?
That's what I just said. Yeah.
You said Bitfloor. Are they two different exchanges?
No, CoinFloor. Oh, I thought I said CoinFloor.
Are they two different exchanges? Does Bitfloor exist?
I don't know if Bitfloor exists. I don't know about Bitfloor. I know about CoinFloor.
So is CoinFloor the one that was doing proof of reserves?
Yeah.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they just went Bitcoin only.
Shout out to Bitfloor.
There you go.
If you're in the UK.
Okay, so I think we had enough conversation about that, especially since we talk about it all the fucking time.
Yeah. Let's talk about cooler things. Phoenix. Async launches
so fucking dope.
This app. We talked about it a couple months ago. I do not have Android, though, so I haven't tested it out.
I tried it.
What's it like?
And it was fucking badass. It reminds me of the Breeze Flow a lot. So they provide you inbound liquidity. But with Breeze, they provide you the inbound liquidity before you make or receive any payments. They just open a channel to you right away. And then if you do transfer funds in, then they take the cost of opening that channel. They take the fee from you. With this, it's really interesting. You can just, it's non-custodial. As soon as you install the app, you can generate a Lightning invoice. And if you pay that invoice, it says, you just received a payment for this amount. Are you willing to pay us this amount in fees to receive it? And you press that, and then they open the channel, and you're good to go. So very clean. And you can also send them on chain, and it automatically swaps it over into Lightning for you and creates a channel and charges you a little fee.
Boss.
So yeah, so you can literally open it. You don't have to worry about channels. You don't have to worry about. They don't do the backup flow in the beginning, which is so great when you're testing it out, right? Like they just notify you on the top, like please back up, please back up, please back up, but they don't force you to go through the whole seed word backup. And you can just basically instantly receive Lightning payments and spend Lightning payments non-custodial. So I really like it for the same reason I like Breeze. And I think they're two top tier apps, like really great on mobile. What's interesting is they didn't go the neutrino approach. I think it's on their roadmap, but they still haven't gone that approach with Phoenix by Async. It's an Electrum server, so they connect to like a random Electrum server, and you can put in your own, which I don't think is ideal. I think I would prefer neutrino, but we'll see.
We shall see.
I think there's more overhead on doing neutrino-style block filters on mobile than just connecting to an Electrum server. So I think that's why.
Yeah, because you'd have to feed them, right? From The company server, or
It's just that the filters that they have to send.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, either way, it'd be from a company server right now, right? But ideally, Neutrino gets merged into Core, and then people will be serving Neutrino filters all over the place, right? Like Wasabi right now runs their own. I think Lightning Labs runs their own. But I think the bigger issue is the actual data load, like the amount of data that gets sent in the filters, is just way higher than when you connect to an Electrum server. Yeah. But don't quote me on that. But anyway, it's a fucking dope app, super clean. Just really, really excited about it. And yeah.
Yeah. Staying on Lightning launches, C Lightning version 0.8.0 was released. Blockstream's got a good
Huge.
Medium post out on it. Is a huge update. Let's walk through it.
Big one's multi-part payments.
So you get multi-part.
AMP.
You get AMP. AMP is finally here. You can splice in, splice out, it's extending the plugin capabilities, and a bunch of other stuff. And this is going to help like combine channels together as well.
Well, multi-part payments, I mean, it's what it sounds like, but it's fucking huge. So like right now, if you wanted to pay someone with Lightning, you have these channels, right? Like imagine them like an abacus, and you can move the balance back and forth, the amounts you can do. But there's a cap. Whatever your largest payment is maxed by whatever your largest channel route is to the user, the receiver. In multi-part payments, you'll be able to basically send a bunch of little payments that all add up on the final side as the amount you're paying.
Yeah, cross channels, which is pretty huge.
So it makes liquidity easier because you're not limited by your biggest channel in terms of the amount you can send, and it makes It could make, like right now in current implementation, there are some privacy leaks still, but it's significant improvement to privacy, especially going forward, because just think about it, you're sending multiple little payments all through different routes on the network, so you need to control way more nodes if you're trying to spy on that transaction.
Yeah, it's huge.
Really cool. So you need both. Both users need to, the payer and the receiver need to have it, have AMP support in order for it to go. Lightning Labs doesn't have it out yet in LND. Pretty sure Async does, and now C Lightning does. Rusty Russell of Blockstream, he's been working on C Lightning. He was on Stefan's podcast this week. Definitely well worth a listen. They talk a lot about multi-part payments. Multi-path payments.
Yeah. Go listen to that one. It's happening slowly but surely, it seems. So big updates this week. Go check out Phoenix, and if you're running C Lightning, make sure you upgrade, or I don't want to force you to upgrade. If you want to upgrade and start testing out version 0.8.0, it is not released.
Oh, yeah. Phoenix is Android only, but it's going to come out on iPhone next year supposedly.
Boss. I can't wait to test it out when it does. Speaking of new updates, Wasabi Wallet, which was the topic of conversation earlier, they have a new release out too, version 1.1.10.
The big one for this is it has Bitcoin Core baked into it.
Bitcoin Core is now...
So you just go into settings, toggle it on, and you have a full node as well.
Yeah. It's all coming together. And then...
It'd be cool to see Bitcoin Core just bundled in a bunch of shit.
I think that's already happening.
Yeah, like Jack Mahlers was talking about that on Zap. Like, that'd be fucking ideal.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen. Staying on the updates, Cold Card, new firmware, version 3.0.6. If you're running or using Cold Card, make sure you upgrade that firmware. It's always good to stay up to date with the firmware.
Especially if you're using multi-sig. It seems like there's a similar vulnerability to the single sig change vulnerability. They haven't released full details yet. But it does have in bold there that if you're using multi-sig, a disclosure will be released, and the update fixes it, so you should fix it.
Yes, and
you should update.
Yes, and we'll use this as a reminder to remind you freaks if you're running a Treasure T, make sure that's updated with the latest firmware as well, because it has that bug that Matt was alluding to, where if identified and attacked, you could have the change of your transaction sent to a hacker.
Yeah, Yeah. Just update before you send transactions. You should go check the firmware updates for your hardware wallets.
Yes.
And the Keep Key got owned by Kraken too last week. You saw that?
I did not see that.
But I think it seems like it's a similar own as what happened to the Trezor, which is neither of them have secure elements, like the cold card and the ledger do. So if you have physical access, you can extract the seed. And I think I remember when Ledger did it to Trezor, they were saying like the device, like the idiot device, like if they were going to build a device that just any idiot could plug into Trezor and pull out a seed, it'd be like $110. Kraken said it's $75. So in that case, I mean, I don't think anyone should be using a Keep Key. They're just like giving them out for $10 because they want to get you onto Shapeshift's KYC platform and read all your pub keys, which is fucking crazy. But if you don't have a secure element, it's extra important. Like if you're using a Trezor, if you're using a cold card, Keep Key, it's extra important that you use a strong passphrase because the passphrase isn't stored on the device. So if they extract your seed, they still need to then brute force your passphrase. They have to basically rapidly guess your passphrase, which they'll probably get through eventually, but it gives you some time. And then just try and prevent physical access as best as possible, right?
Yes. I mean, I operate under the assumption that if any of these devices are physically taken by anybody, that they're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, the secure element's a huge improvement because you're able to encode stuff like, 13 wrong pin entries and the thing just wipes itself.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's the assumption you should take. And just the number one thing you can do is to just have multiple methods of storing your Bitcoin. So it's just like if one fails, you don't lose everything.
Yes, diversify your custodial risk. Last update that we're talking about, Ronin UI for Samurai Dojo has been added.
So this is actually independent, but it's not out of the Samurai team. It's independent contributors, but it's basically like a nice UI for setting up Dojo. Dojo is Samurai's full node suite. We've talked in the past about it. Usually you have to use command line, but they set it up so you have a nice little UI for setting it up. It's relatively easy. You get a Raspberry Pi 4, which they're pretty cheap nowadays. I mean, it just came out, but they're pretty cheap. And an SSD, and you just throw this Ronin on it, and then you have a Dojo, and then you connect the Dojo to Samurai Wallet, and you can use your full node with Samurai, and you can use it with Whirlpool to do mixing and stuff like that.
Again, it's all coming together, baby. It's all coming together.
And on that note, my Noddle Dojo shipped as well, so I'm pretty excited for that.
I'm excited for you.
I'm very excited.
I'm excited for you and selfishly because I want to learn about it. And
sexy piece of hardware.
It's faster, too. It's red.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Here's another cool thing, and these have been popping up more and more recently. The BTC Pay server integration for M5 stacks. Sats, they added the sats.
Right? It's just M5 stack.
Yeah, it's M5 stack. They added sats to it. But M5 stack is that sort of general purpose hardware. I believe it's based out of Japan, correct?
I'm not sure where it's based, but it's modular. It's the cool part, so you can tinker with it and run your own shit on it. Yeah,
it's modular general purpose computing, and that's what I believe Justin Moon used to make the BitBoy.
Yes.
There's been a lot of videos floating around online, and you can integrate BTC Pay server on it now. People are making very small POS systems.
Yeah, this is the first one that integrated BTC Pay. And there's a guide coming out soon. The other ones,
I thought the ones like they had Bitcoin in Berlin were.
It was like Bitcoin payments, but it wasn't BTC Pay.
Okay.
Like you could pay to. This is like full proper BTC Pay integration. So for relatively cheaply, anyone can roll out these point of sales, and I think they're pretty sexy. They're nice and small. They got the nice readable screen on them.
Yeah, Dennis Raymond has a demo online. We're gonna drop that link in the bio. Or the show notes, not the bio.
I mean, I think we were talking about earlier about, trying to avoid KYC as the first step here with trying to reclaim some privacy when using Bitcoin.
Getting paid is a great way to do that.
It's probably the best way, and will continue to become even more best way. And that's what, when people talk about spending Bitcoin and you should spend Bitcoin more, well, first of all, it's your fucking money. You do with it as you please. But I think merchant spending with Bitcoin. In 2013, we had this whole thing where like everyone wanted to get people to accept Bitcoin, but they were just converting it to fiat. So there's going to be two things here. Like Bitcoiners will be more likely to spend Bitcoin on things that they can't spend otherwise, like fiat's not accepted, where they think the merchant is keeping the Bitcoin, and where the merchant offers a discount. And the merchants will offer a discount because I know me personally, I would totally pay 5%, receive 5% less for goods and services just to not have KYC, right? You're paying for that. You're paying a little bit with a discount to not have KYC.
Yeah, no, and just anecdotally, from personal experience, it's having BTC Pay and being able to watch people buy from our merch store with Bitcoin and send us shout outs and whiskey and dime bags. It works, and it's been a great way to like passively just make Bitcoin.
Yeah, and you don't have that KYC overhead, which is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see that more.
And that's the other thing with the site,
merchants.
like, and it's like the big argument that's been going on too. Like, fuck all the arguments. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down. With like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? As a Bitcoin, quote unquote, Bitcoin company, for us, like, if we don't, like, we tell people to hodl. I think that's most advantageous in the long run is to hodl. But if we do have a store and we're Bitcoiners, we have to offer payment in Bitcoin. I'm not trying to. I am scamming people out of their Bitcoin, but hey, that's your decision to spend your Bitcoin.
We also accept dirty fiat.
Exactly. The option is there.
It'd be a little hypocritical if we didn't accept Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have to. We can tell people to hodl, but then also tell them to
I think
send us
eventually what
Bitcoin.
we should do is we should offer discount if people pay in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Our store's not sophisticated
Yeah, we're
enough
not
to do that yet.
We're not
But
sophisticated enough operation
in principle,
to get that
we're
going.
there.
Yes.
In principle, we're there to offer a discount if you pay in Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're working
I
our
think
way.
that's the path going forward.
Yeah, we got to figure that out.
But yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. I don't even want to talk about it. Like, it's no one there. Maybe there's 1% of people that think hodl means like hold forever and never fucking spend ever. Like that is the most ridiculous interpretation. You save money and you spend it when you want to spend your money. Like that is. And we personally think dollar cost averaging is like the easiest way to invest in this super volatile asset, right? So you mix those two together, and if you're dollar cost averaging and your salary is in fiat, like you have even less incentive to spend your Bitcoin because you're actually net buying Bitcoin every week. Why would you, or every month, or whenever your dollar cost average is, why would you not just take some of that fiat and spend it everywhere that accepts fiat?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah.
Instead, you're paying the transaction fee, and then maybe they're converting it back to fiat anyway. It's ridiculous.
You're preaching to the choir here, brother.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But yeah, people have to fight about stuff.
Especially in times like these.
Yes.
This really reminds me of
2015.
Yeah, because that's what Bitcoin does to you. Is what really kills people is the relief rally. Like that rally to 14K where everyone thought they were like through the woods and then it came back down. That's when it really just like knocks you down, takes you out.
Right.
Yeah.
Drags you like, oh my God, it's
that's
dead.
Because I remember when it went up to like $600 in like 2015 or 2014, and everyone's like, moon, it's going moon. I was right. All the haters are wrong, and then it came back down, hit new lows, and it was just killed everyone.
Yeah. It is Bitcoin is a cruel mistress. She's a cruel bitch. Speaking of cruel, Alex Gladstein, we shouted him out before. He's not cruel, but he goes to talk about how cruel regimes. I'm blowing this segue. All right, Alex Gladstein.
What a boss!
What a boss! Wrote another great article this time for Quillette, which is getting it's not the most mainstream publication, but it's more mainstream than just the crypto bubble or the Bitcoin bubble that we're in.
He dropped 3 posts this week in 3 different outlets.
Right.
Quillette, CoinDesk, and Tor's blog.
Yeah, and Tor's blog.
And I thought it was really funny because I think we talked about him last week or the week before, and I was like, he's the best shill in Bitcoin. Like when I like sit down with myself, I'm just like, Matt, be more like Alex when you shill Bitcoin. Like he just has such persuasive arguments. He's very good with his words, and I felt like he was listening because he just went on like a sprint here, just content.
Content is key. That is the game we're in.
All three posts are great. I recommend reading all three of them. The Quillette one was extra special because it's more mainstream. But I thought the Tor one was really good. Yeah, it was just, Bitcoin has free speech money, basically.
Keep on keeping on, Alex. Are you okay over there? Need some water?
I'm coughing, man. I think it's the air heat in here.
Yeah. Got dry air outside, the heat on in here.
Yeah.
You're blaming the atmosphere at the studio.
It's the squall.
It's the squall. Couple more things to touch on here. This was making the rounds this morning. There was a couple. There was a few banks that were. Now I'm coughing. Jesus.
It's contagious.
A few banks that were affected by a glitch in the Fed system this morning, which delayed direct deposits nationwide. And I just wanted to throw this. Well, you threw it in here, but I want to talk about it because we were talking about it earlier. It's like, holy shit! Imagine if this happened for like 2 weeks. If this glitch lasted for like 2 weeks, and people weren't getting paid. Like you could just go on Twitter and see people talking about not getting paid this morning and how angry they were.
It was interesting. Like a half an hour after it usually comes through, people are already complaining,
and they were like livid. It would be. Shit would devolve so fast if this persisted for like more than a week. It is crazy how fragile this could be.
Why is the Fed even involved in this shit? I didn't even know they were a part of this process, the direct deposit.
They're the clearinghouse at the end of the day. It's what everything gets marked to, or written down. And
I never expected that in the direct deposit flow they were,
They're the final ledger. Well, that's what freaks me out. Like, does this have something to do with the repo markets? I'm not saying it does, but it's like, yeah. So like couple of questionable moves by the Fed towards the end of the year here. This being a software glitch is what they're blaming on. I think Capital One was the bank most affected, but there were others as well. But yeah, again, like.
But Capital One blamed the Fed.
Yes, Capital One did blame the Fed. And now again, like it is. Like, again, going back to the Twitter comments of how angry people were. Like, imagine, again, we talk a lot about how people are working paycheck to paycheck in this country. Imagine if people didn't get the direct deposit for, like, 2 weeks straight. Like, how fast would shit devolve in this country?
Well, it reminds me of that horror story in New York where it was the reverse. Remember, instead of getting their direct deposit, it was all, they got money pulled out and then exit scammed?
Yeah, that bank, they, like, ran with it here.
The payment processor.
Take a sip of my water.
Thank you, Marty. I'm dying over here.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I'm about to give you CPR. It's like, that'd be weird.
It's sparkling.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so that happened, and again, it was just a reminder of how fragile the system can be, and like how much we take all this shit for granted. And you just think that, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my direct deposit in the morning. It's gonna show up. There's gonna be no problem. Stuff has to happen in the background to make that happen, and sometimes that can get fucked up, and it happened this morning.
And of course, like all the people came out and they were like, Bitcoin never goes down. Bitcoin has gone down sometimes, like rarely. Just say rarely.
Yes.
It's amazing
yes.
Uptime is like 99.9 or something.
There have been. Yes.
We can stand behind that uptime. We cannot stand behind Bitcoin never goes down.
Yes. It. Factually, you can't say that. It's not a fact.
Yeah, so
it's not a fact.
Shill Bitcoin properly, please.
Yes, shill lightly and properly. And the last topic, the big topic, we should probably riff on this for a bit here. What I wrote about in the Bent this morning, and probably the big story. You freaks have probably heard about it by now, or should have heard about it if you haven't. It's fucking insane. Actually, good journalism coming out of the New York Times. Got to give props for props are due. We talk
blog.
Talk shit on the blog that is New York Times a lot, but Stuart Thompson and Charlie Walzer, I believe. Let me get the correct last name.
They always have the best infographics.
Yeah, the best parallax graphics here at the Times. Warzel, yes, Charlie Warzel and Stuart Thompson wrote a piece, and basically they had a source approach them, or sources, approach them from a company that collects location data from cell phones and sells it to marketers. And basically these sources working at this company approached the two journalists at the New York Times because they were so scared of the amount of data they had and how people were using it. And so they actually gave Stuart and Charlie access to a chunk of the data, not even all the data, just a tiny sliver of the data. And Stewart and Charlie basically walk through how they followed a bunch of people, high-ranking military officials, celebrities.
Because they pretend it's anonymized, but like if you can see everywhere a phone's been, you can figure out who the person is.
Yes, exactly. But that was scary. Like these two journalists just did this themselves. They were handed the data and they constructed these profiles of people based off the metadata, and basically showed that they were able to follow people who were in meetings with President Obama and the Pentagon.
So this is like different apps you have installed on your phone, like weather apps, stuff like that. All that information is then aggregated and sold and moved around
to companies that you have no idea exist.
And they pretend it's anonymized because technically it doesn't say your name or your phone number next to it. But if you look at the location history, you can figure out who the fuck it is.
Yeah. Like I said it in the Ben, I was like, I thought, I think yesterday nothing would have shocked me. This shocked me. Like how?
I wasn't like that shocked. They just...
I mean, just the fact that two journalists were able to paint these...
Yeah, they display it well.
These profiles, again, like...
One thing that shocked me was that they show the Pentagon and the White House, and you see, like, tons of information there. So, to me, that says that they're just...
blind.
Yeah, completely oblivious to this issue because their own people are being tracked using it, right? Like, and it reminded me of... what was it like? It was a Fitbit competitor or something. Like their data, their publicly accessed data, like showed a bunch of like secret military bases around the world because all the agents would be running around with their activity
running around
trackers
the circle behind,
in like the middle of the desert somewhere.
Yeah.
So they're just oblivious. That's not great.
That's not great. At all. Well, and I wrote about this is what I said in the Ben today. Like it's the way this stuff is architected, right? Like the way cloud services work, the way that you trust these companies with your data instead of having the data yourself and custodying the data yourself and pushing that data out instead of having these companies pull it from you. I think the internet in its first iteration, at least up to this point, may have failed from a privacy perspective. Like we may need to restructure the stuff from scratch, and I think it does need to be built using cypherpunk tools, and just brought Timothy May up in today's letter because specifically the signature in the emails that he used to send, rest in peace Tim May, crypto anarchy, encryption, digital money, anonymous networks, digital pseudonyms, zero knowledge, reputations, information markets, black markets, collapse of governments. And so he's basically outlining the tools you need to get to what a sovereign individual would like over time is the collapse of the state. And so we have encryption that's widespread. We have digital money, but we need the anonymous networks, digital pseudonyms, zero knowledge, reputation systems, information markets, and black markets that don't track your data. And this is, I know you get triggered by this. Trigger warning to all you freaks out there as well who may get triggered by this. Like projects like Urbit that are working too.
Urbit's a shitcoin.
Yeah, all right. But it's not. There's an episode dropping tomorrow where I talk with Bitcoin Sign Guy about Urbit. All right.
Are we a shitcoin podcast now?
No, we are not. It depends. No, we're not a shitcoin podcast. It depends on
We'll discuss after our list.
It depends if you come to the conclusion that Urbit is a shitcoin. And then, even then, we're only going to talk about Bitcoin. I talked about Urbit because of this problem specifically. Like, it could solve... So, again, we have encryption. That's widespread. The common man can access very powerful encryption tools. Digital money... There's a very promising digital money in Bitcoin, I think. We're working on that. But the anon networks, digital pseudonyms, zero knowledge, and the reputation systems that can only be built on top of, in my opinion, systems where users hold the data and hand it out in a permission way. We need to build those networks because the networks that we have now, the internet, Facebook, the social media landscape, and all that stuff is basically a digital panopticon that I don't think we'll ever be able to tear down. We need to build something side by side to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this idea that regulators can protect you and that politicians can protect you is just never going to happen. So, like, stop waiting for them to get their act together. Like, we need to solve this with tech. Like, you need to build systems that just can't be censored by design. Can't be abused at scale. And that's the only solution. There's no other solution.
Yeah, and it's scary if we don't do it. If we don't do it, we are fully surveilled.
Enter the panopticon.
We are. The panopticon's here, freaks.
Exactly.
It is here.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not the powers that be want to use the panopticon. They can, at any moment, decide to use it, right?
They're using it.
But they can decide to use it more overtly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like China.
Yeah.
I mean, on that note, I would like to give a shout out to @HybridSoul. He sent me a PGP encrypted DM this week, so thank you.
Here we go, Hybrid Soul.
Appreciated that. Let's see if he figured out how to decrypt it after I responded to him. The other thing was it just broke.
Poloniex,
which was the biggest shitcoin casino in 2017.
Circle bought it.
Circle bought it, brought it to the U.S. Oh, it was already in the U.S. Circle bought it, added KYC to every account. It absolutely killed their value prop because these shitcoin casinos, people don't want KYC on them.
Everybody went to Binance.
And now Justin Sun of Tron
Fuck Justin Sun.
led a group that bought Poloniex from Circle at a huge discount, brought them outside the U.S., kicked off all U.S. users, which was really easy to do because everyone had KYC'd, right? And now they just opened non-KYC accounts. So they moved out of the U.S., and now they can be a proper shitcoin casino, have no KYC. And it's like similar to Binance, where there's... The only limit is like withdrawals. So $10,000 you can withdraw per day if you're not verified. You just need an email address. So we'll see if they start doing shotgun KYC and stuff like Binance has been doing. Because Binance has a similar tier, basically. Like their lowest tier is no KYC with withdrawal limit. But they've been known to just force you to do KYC and hold your funds hostage. So
yeah, and be careful with Poloniex too. I mean, it could be a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. I don't even know how that saying goes, but like, if they did it once, they could definitely shotgun KYC again.
I mean, look, I just think that if any of these guys can shotgun KYC on you, and I just assume that they will at any time, even someone with like a stellar reputation like BitMEX, like at any moment they can just hit you with KYC. And you should just assume that that's the case. But I think more importantly here, it just really highlights, I think, that like you can't run like a fully regulated shitcoin casino. It's just like, it's an oxymoron. So you need to, like, in the regulated countries, they should be, in the U.S. and stuff, people should be focused on basically being an on-ramp, off-ramp, like pretty much Bitcoin only. If you want to add like one or two other chains there, so be it. But I mean, it should be a Bitcoin only on-off ramp. What we've seen with Cash App, what we see with River coming out. Instead of like Coinbase, where Coinbase is like trying to be the Binance of the West, which they can't compete with Binance, and they're a worse on-ramp, off-ramp. So yeah. They just sit in the middle.
No focus.
Yeah.
Gotta find focus. Yeah, and a note there, like Circle, they also shed their OTC desk. Kraken.
Yeah, they sold to Kraken.
Kraken bought that this week. And what's happened? Is Circle just bending the knee, folding?
Yeah, because they just had that really good interview, the ex-Circle OTC guy on the brink, and it seems like it was a very profitable business for them.
Yeah, but he was an ex-Circle guy.
That's true.
Maybe
That's
for
true.
a reason.
I don't know. Kraken in general has been making a lot of acquisitions and moves lately, so it might say more about Kraken than it does about Circle.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. That's all we have on the list today. Was told to give a shout out, but I'm not going to read it. I got to give sats back to somebody.
Should we say who it was?
Yeah.
It was American Hodl sent us a very vulgar shout out.
Yeah.
And he said if we don't repeat it word for word, then he gets his sats back. So we're just going to send those back.
Yeah. Send me an invoice. You're getting your sats back.
But we love you, dude.
Yeah,
appreciate the shout out regardless.
Yeah. I'm not going to read vulgar stuff. It's just
yeah, definitely.
Apparently there's kids in cars reading this stuff,
Listening.
Reading. Wow.
This is not reading, children.
No.
You're not reading right now.
No, you're not. All right. That's all we got this week. Anything else you want to wrap on?
Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love.